Well, welcome back to the channel. We are continuing our build of our M110 self-propelled howitzer and 1/35 scale by ITALERI. And this is part two. So we left off, we had just test fitted our road wheels onto our M110 hull. Now before we get to putting all the little bits and pieces that goes on top of the hull, the little grab handles and little attachment points and all that stuff. We don't want to be knocking any of that off while we're fitting our aftermarket tracks, which are AFVClub tracks here for the M110 and M107, kit number AF35332. So we already test fitted these tracks by making a small section up around our drive sprockets to make sure that those drive sprockets, we're going to engage those tracks correctly. So that's kind of the point of doing that. But now we need to go ahead and put together the tracks and make sure that we got enough links. Hopefully there's enough links in the kit to go all the way around on both sides. So let's start off with fitting our track sections. So we do need to make up all of our tracks here. Now this is the section that we put together to do that little test fitting around our drive sprockets there. But now we need to go ahead and trim off all of our little track sections here from the central sprues. As you can see, these are all set up in pairs. So we're just going to use our sprue cutters here to trim this off. And you do need to be very, very careful when you cut these off that you got the alignment correct with your sprue cutters so that we're not nicking into the actual part. And then with that done, we can just come in and clean up those little sprue connection points there, our little sprue gates, so that the tracks will fit together nicely. So just to show you what happens if you don't, it might be hard to see here, but I did kind of nick into the joint there. If I can get it, there you go. Yeah, that's not good. So I may have damaged that beyond repair. So we'll set that one aside and just use that just in case we actually need it. So when it comes to cutting these off, because the parts are rather small, I'd line up the ends of my sprue cutters onto the edge of the part, right up next to the sprue, and then now you can cut it off straight, or I kind of turn mine to the side because I'm cutting through the thinnest part of the actual sprue gate, which leaves me a little bit less to actually clean up, but that's kind of up to you how you want to do it. This is how I do it, and it works pretty good. Works much better than cutting through the part, which I did earlier. Which obviously is not optimal. You don't want to do that to too many, because I'm not sure how many of these we're going to have left over after we get enough track sections to assemble to outfit the entire vehicle. And of course, you know, however you clean them up is up to you. I kind of switch back and forth from either the hobby knife or the a file, which file seems to do much better than a sanding stick on cleaning up those little sprue gates here on these type of tracks. So we did cover the assembly of these tracks in the last video, but just for those that maybe didn't catch that, these kind of snap together. The easiest way I have found to do it is to angle in one of the connection joints. Here it's at the bottom for me, the way I'm holding it here. And then we just kind of press it together. And you'll have a good audible snap that lets you know that you're fully engaged. So we need to put up or put together quite a few of these in order to get enough length to actually go around an entire side. And as you can see, they work quite well. They are a workable track. And they seem pretty tough too. They don't pull apart. So here we have a length of track. Now we just need to fit it and see if we have the right number of shoes to give us the right amount of track sag, because there is going to be a little bit of sag across the top run. Something that you're very familiar with when it comes to, say, Tiger tanks and Panthers and stuff like that. The guide horns, though, prevent us from sliding the track in over top of the drive sprocket. So we're going to have to thread it in. Choose your side, whether you want to come in from the front or from the rear of the vehicle. But the next thing is to engage those teeth that are on the actual drive sprocket. Here I'm going to have to use my tweezers, kind of pinch them together a little bit so that we got a good engagement there. And next up, we're going to need some road wheels, of course, to actually have the track set on. And I'm just going to go ahead and slide them in place here. Of course, we're not attaching anything. We just want to make sure that we have ample surface to kind of hold the track against the road wheels so that we can see if we have enough or we need to make up some more links. And as you can see here, it looks like I may be one link too long, but that's okay because funny thing, when you paint a vehicle, for some reason, link style tracks tend to get shorter. I don't know why, but that's the way they are. With that in mind, it's not a bad idea to just leave that extra link on there. And we will paint and weather it all together. And if we need to remove it when we go to put them on as a final assembly, then we can always remove the extra length there. At least we'll have it, and it'll match everything else. So that's a total of 77 links per side. Now I'm going to wash these and clean them up really good as an assembly. Next up, let's go ahead and take a look at these rubber band style tracks. I've gone ahead and I've washed these in the Dawn dishwashing detergent and rinsed them really good with warm water. And we're just going to cut them apart as if we're going to actually use them on the model, because some of you guys may prefer to use these versus, buying and, the aftermarket tracks and fiddling with all that little stuff there. So once I've got them cut loose, we're going to be using the medium strength Star Bond or medium Star Bond CA glue for this. And this is what the instructions recommend, is that you use CA glue to join the tracks. So we're going to follow their instructions. I know it's kind of rare for me to do that, but I just want to make sure that I've got enough CA glue in the contact area where the tracks are going to be assembled. It does have 2 alignment pins, so we're going to make sure that we've got the CA glue all the way around each one of those pins. That way we've got plenty of cement to hold it together. And I think I'll just flip these inside out. That'll be much easier to see the joint. And all we have to do is line up the pins. Now this is very reminiscent of the old style rubber band style tracks where you have to melt over the pins. I'm just going to use my self-gripping tweezers to join them and clamp them together, and making sure that everything is seated nicely. So I have let these tracks dry for 20 minutes, and I think 20 minutes is more than enough time to let that medium CA glue set up. So now we get to test it and see if it's actually going to hold. I have had failures before, and it seems like, okay, so it seems like these are gluable tracks. It's not coming apart. Yeah, so I'm happy with that result. Many times they claim that the tracks are gluable in the newer kits, and that's just not the truth of the matter. But these are holding, so that's good. As you can see, I have put a little bit of stress on it there, so that's not bad. So when it comes to cleaning up the joints, the mold joint there, which seems to be the only really bad place on the entire track assembly that we need to pay attention to, it's kind of difficult to trim these tracks up. I'm just double checking. that everything is good. I did cut the extensions, the little ends of the pins that come up through the track there for the joint. And then we have this little area right here from the mold, which is dead center of the track assembly here. We'll try to figure out what's the best way to get rid of that. Sprue cutters is really not a good option. And then if you use your craft knife, it kind of flip-flops back and forth. It's kind of hard to do. And you can't really get down into the little areas there with the knife and trim it out. So the best thing that I have found is a really small, sharp pair of scissors. And we can get in there and get the majority of it. Some people say use a little bit of heat. I don't know that I would do that, but that's kind of up to you. You can always hide this little mold seam here on the bottom of the vehicle where it's not going to be seen if that's something that you're worried about. So that's it for the rubber band style tracks. Let's continue on with our build. So with our tracks out of the way, we've already done step 1 and 2, so we're going to go on to step 3. Yeah, that's all these little bitty pieces that we've got to put onto the upper hull there. Hatches and storage lids and tools and all that. So I'm not going to bore you with cleanup of all that stuff, but when it comes to these small handles and really small bits and pieces here, I like to leave them on a piece of sprue. Kind of holds the part for us there more securely than we could do it in our fingers there. There are some areas that need to be cleaned up and just take care of those seam lines and everything. It's just easier to do with it attached to a piece of sprue than it would be to do it if you freed the part from the sprue. So we're just going to gently clean these up. And for the areas that are really tight to get to, where you can't get a sanding stick in there, you can just use your hobby knife and clean up those seam marks and make the part look so much better. Now when it comes to our fire extinguisher, it has a base that is molded on, of course, and it's not flat, and the sides aren't flat, and they should be. So we're going to have to take and flatten that out because this particular part sits right down on the rear deck area, and well, we don't want it wobbling around, and we want a nice, clean look to the model. So we're going to have to flatten that out so that it sits like it's supposed to. And we also have to take care of the side areas, which are kind of, they're kind of bulged out there, and they should be nice and flat. So we'll have to take care of those as well, and then clean up the rest of the seams as you would normally, which includes things like standing proud ejector pin marks, which this fire extinguisher has on the back side there. It might not be seen, not sure, but we're gonna go ahead and fix that just using our hobby knife. We'll trim that out and scrape it down so that that any evidence of this is gone. So we do have a rifle rack that goes into the crew area there. And as you can see, it's not square, and it also has some proud standing ejector pin marks there in the corners, and that's kind of hard to get down in there. I'm just going to use my chisel here to kind of trim those away, kind of zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. You can probably see better what I'm doing than I can see. But we're just going to lightly kind of trim these away until we get them down, hopefully flush. And for whatever's left over, we can come in with our curved X-Acto blade and scrape the surface down and get those cleaned up. And then I come in with a little bit of, to me, extra thin here and just go over those little areas. And that'll help soften anything that's left and kind of smooth everything out for us. And then next up, we've got our fuel cans here. So these fuel cans are molded with the mounting base already molded to them. And this is a, let's see, 2, 3, 4-part affair where you put the two halves together. And we'll cement them. And once they've dried, as you can see, the bases are not flat, and the sides are, well, they've got that funny little bulge in them that we need to take care of. So we're going to have to sand all that down, and we'll also sand and blend the sides of the can itself. That way we end up with a decent looking part. Now the detail on the cans themselves is actually pretty good. So, I mean, if you wanted to, you could replace these with some aftermarket stuff, but I think they're going to serve our purpose, and we should be able to get these cleaned up nicely. So I do have some ideas about improving our fuel cans a little bit to give it a better look for the vehicle. So we're going to come back to the fuel cans later on. Let's go ahead and start working on some of the other stuff on the vehicle while I think about this for a bit. I think I want to start off with these little bitty handles that goes on our engine cover. So it's just a small bar that goes into these little gaps on either side of the actual engine cover. And I probably need a pair of tweezers to hold these so that you can see, and my finger's not in the way, they just actually sit right there, as you can see. However, it's kind of a loose fit, and trying to get something glued up or cemented into place that is too small for the area it's supposed to go into is going to be, well, it's going to be near impossible to get them right if they'll stay in there at all. So I'm going to make some new ones, and I'm just laying my part down where I can actually see it, and we're going to stretch a little bit of sprue. I'm just using this little candle here to heat the polystyrene up, and I think I need to go ahead and trim that end off of the the piece of sprue that I'm using here. It's kind of getting in my way, so we'll snap that off. So that's much better, and we're just going to rotate it. Now don't put it down next to the flame. Keep it well above the flame when you're doing this. We don't want to catch anything on fire. And by having the part right next to where we're doing our stretching, we can kind of get the diameter, just kind of eyeballing it and stretch it out until the diameter kind of matches the original part. That way we don't have a lot of guesswork here, and just hold it until it cools a little bit. And then we can just cut us off a segment of our stretched sprue, just a little bit longer than the original part. And then we can check the fit. So I'm going to sand one end of this off. I'm just holding it with my tweezers here. And be careful, don't use tweezers that have really smooth jaws. You need the ones that are serrated a little bit. That way you're not losing your part. It goes flinging off. Not that that would be too terrible. We still have plenty of stretched sprue where we can cut another piece. So we're just going to fit this to get it ready for installation. And then we'll just put a little bit of extra thin. I'm going to put it on the actual engine cover. That way I don't have to worry about the part sticking to my tweezers. And then we can kind of slide this into place. Now we do need a nice fit, tight fit. That's what we need in order for the part to stay where we want it. And then we need to kind of line it up there with the corners of the engine cover. And we'll have to do this for the other side as well. And we just want to make sure everything is lined up and looks right. So here we are with our two little handles in place, and I think this is a much better solution than fooling with and trying to use the kit part, which was just a little bit too short. So with those taken care of, we can go ahead and start putting on some of the other parts. This is the lid for the storage bin on the back of the vehicle. We'll cement that into place. We also have our hatch, which we can put it into place. And I'm not going to have this in an open position because there's nothing inside the vehicle. So we'll cement that in. And we also have this shield that goes on over top of our periscopes. Now, for whatever reason, ITALERI did not put any alignment tabs or anything on this. So you just kind of have to stick it into place there and get it lined up. I am leaving a small gap between the hatch itself and our shield, and then just try to line it up to the engine cover. Kind of get those lines looking right. So we do have two small handles to put on here, both of which is, I think it's part 29, one for the driver's hatch, and then the other for the little storage bin that is to the left of the driver's hatch. We'll get those installed. Now when it comes to our transmission cover, we do have two small handles that needs to go on it. And I have left the sprue gate long on these parts. And we'll trim these off later after our our lifting handles here have dried completely. Now, ITALERI only gives us two little round circles to, to locate this. There are no holes with locator pins and all that. So, yeah, we're just going to drop a little bit of CA glue in there and just kind of set these handles into place. And once we get them all lined up, we're going to leave them alone and let them dry completely. We'll come back later and clean off that little sprue gate that's left on these. And I think it's a good idea to leave that sprue gate on because it gives us something to actually hold on to when we are trying to install these without having them flip around all over the place. So next up, we will install our lifting loops here that are on the front of the vehicle. Now, again, ITALERI has just put a little indication, kind of a little raised line that tells us where these parts are supposed to line up at. So I'm doing my best to get it in there. And yeah, I'm going to have to adjust it a little bit. And we'll have to leave these to dry. We don't want to be knocking these off, so make sure that you give it plenty of time to set up. That way you're not knocking it out of alignment and come back later to find that it is the cement has dried in the wrong location. So that would be bad. So we do have a small handle that goes on over the intake, well, off to the right-hand side of our intake grate there. So we will go ahead and put that on. And then there is just an outline of where our weapons rack is supposed to go. So we'll cement that into place and making sure that it's aligned with that little bitty line that they've got on the deck there. So we do have some items that we're going to leave off for painting. One is the fire extinguisher location there. We're not going to put that on. And then we have two locations there for our fuel cans. And we're not going to put those on either because we're going to paint those up separately. So another part that we're going to leave off is this communications wire reel. Now it goes onto the back of the vehicle over here at the just above the fender extension there. Yeah, we're going to leave that off because there's some detailing that I think we need to do to that to make that look a little bit better. So we'll set that aside for now as well. So having given our little grab handles here for lifting the engine or the transmission cover, it's time to clean up those little sprue gates. So I find it so much easier to clean up these items if we can after they've been installed. Not only that, but you know, that little sprue gate gives us something to hold on to with our tweezers when we go to install them. So we're just going to snip off the sprue gate with our sprue cutters there and just give it a light sanding to get rid of the seam line and whatever's left of our sprue gates there. It did occur to me after I installed these that we could have actually made these out of wire, and we wouldn't have this cleanup to do. But they look good. They're in proportion, so really no need to replace them unless you just want to. Okay, so now we can turn our attention back to our fuel cans. Now, from the sanding and blending of the seams and everything, we kind of lost some of the detail there. There is a recessed line that runs around the top edge of the can there, so we kind of need to reestablish that. That way when we come to put our weathering products on, it kind of stands out for us. So I'm going to use the Tamiya panel line saw to kind of get us started here. And where we've kind of sanded that detail out, we're going to reestablish that and just cut us a fine line all the way around the back side of the can. And we'll need to do this on the front edge as well. And that'll help establish the location of this line that goes around our can. Now we'll have to do this to the other can as well. So after looking at it, it doesn't seem to be quite as wide of a detail as the rest of it that is left on the can. So we're just going to use our trumpeter scribing tool here, and that fine line that we have scribed in is going to be the guide so that our scriber doesn't run astray there. And we can get us a nice straight line all the way around the can there. And a little bit of, to me, extra thin will help soften our scribing out a little bit there. That way it gives it a much better appearance. Now when it comes to the carrying handles that goes on our fuel cans here, I hope that you can see this. The part that they have molded, although it looks really good, it is actually too wide for the fuel can. So that's not going to work for me, you know, because well, that's an obvious flaw. So yeah, we're gonna have to do something about that. So we're going to modify these handles so that they fit. We're going to start off with a small piece of plastic card, and we're going to cement that onto the edge where the front edge of the handles is going to go. Now, we really don't need to worry about the length of it at this point. As a matter of fact, it's sticking over the sides there. It may help us in the long run. We just want to line it up and kind of get that angle right to replicate the angle of the original part. And of course, once we get these in position and get the right angle, we do need to set them aside and make sure that we've given it plenty of time to dry so that it doesn't come off like it just did. So we'll get that and set that aside for a few minutes. Just make sure that you check both cans and make sure that the angles look identical. That's the most important thing. Now once these have dried, we're going to have to lower it to where it is the right height to accept the handles. So I'm just going to use my sanding stick here and sand it down until I get the height correct. And you do need to make adjustments because the handles need to be even with the top of the highest part of the can there. So we're going to have to trim this just a little bit more. So for our handles, I think we can reuse the bars on this versus doing some stretch sprue. Either one we could do, but these have a uniform diameter, so I'm going to give that a shot. So I'm just going to cut the front piece off of it, and that will leave us with 3 little handles. And we can check the length to make sure that it's going to engage the piece of polystyrene that we put in place there. And the reason why I'm using these rather than stretching the sprue is because they've got that little angle that we need for the back part of the can. So put a little of, to me, extra thin on there, and we can just put these into place. Being careful to line them up. I'm just going to start with the center one, and then we can work our way out to the outside handles. And once they've set up enough to where we're not moving them around, we can come in with our sprue cutters here, and we're just going to trim off the excess polystyrene strip there. That way we've got a nice trim look. And then we'll just hit it with our sanding stick there and kind of blend everything in. And with that done, we can go ahead and install our caps. Now these caps actually had a little stem on them. I think that was supposed to go into a locator hole, which is not present on our cans. Now we could have drilled a hole, but I just decided to trim those off and then just stick the caps straight onto the can. That way it looks more realistic there. So another important detail that these cans actually lack is a tie-down strap. So we're going to go ahead and just use some Tamiya masking tape here. This is the 1mm wide stuff, and it looks to be pretty much in scale for what we need. So we are going to use this to simulate our tie-down straps. Now the straps, of course, is going to be in 2 pieces on the real thing. So we'll just go ahead and set it up as 2 pieces on the actual part. So I'm going to trim off what would be the front side, which is the low portion of the actual fuel can holder there, at about the height where I want the buckle to be. And then all we need to do now is put in another piece of tape, which is going to come in from the back side, and wrap around the can. Just make sure that you get it up underneath those handles because they don't go over top. They go through the handles there. And we'll just trim those to fit. So now we need a little buckle to go on our strap. And I've done my best to to bend up a 1mm square out of some real thin copper wire here, and if I can keep from losing it, we may be okay here. And this will add that detail for having an actual buckle. Now, of course, these are quite small, so I'm going to try not to lose it, and we have to make 2 of them. And then we'll use a little dab of CA glue right in the location where we want our buckle to go. And we'll just hopefully not lose this and place it right on top of the strap. It went somewhere. I've lost it. Well, it's here somewhere. Oh, there it is. So yeah, let's try it again. And since we're using medium CA glue, we have a few seconds to get it lined up. Now it's not absolutely perfect, but I think it's a better representation of the fuel can. Once it's all painted up and everything, it should look pretty good. Now, speaking of painting things up, with small parts like this, we're going to detail off the vehicle for handling, painting, and all that good stuff. We need a way to hold on to it. So I'm going to drill a small hole in the base, which we will never see once it's installed on the vehicle. And then we can use a toothpick or cocktail stick, whichever you prefer, to actually hold our part. And now we can paint it without worrying about having to touch the part again. So let's talk a second or two here about our cable reel. For our communications cable that goes onto the back of the vehicle. As you can see, now this is a cable reel that doesn't have any wire on it, but you can clearly see the detail of the handle that's actually on the item. Did I say handle? Well, I meant the crank. Well, anyway, we're going to use some jeweler's wire. Now, this is 28 gauge jeweler's wire that we're going to use to try to make that crank with. And we're going to need to spot us a little divot here where the crank needs to go. Just using our number 11 blade here on our X-Acto knife to do that. And we'll just drill us a small hole to accept the wire. Not real sure of the size, but I do want it to be snug. So we'll get us a hole started there. And we just take our wire and check it and see if it's too small or whatever. It looks like it's a little bit too small. So I'll just drill it out a little bit larger with a different bit and check it again. We want a nice snug fit here. And we will just go ahead and cut us off a small piece of this wire, enough to work with. Of course, the crank is going to be quite small, so we do need a straight piece of wire though. Since this is spooled up, the best thing to do is just take that small piece of wire, put it on your cutting mat, and roll it out with a little bit of pressure, and that'll straighten our wire for us. And using our pliers, we'll just go ahead and bend us a nice little crank there. Don't worry about the extra long pieces there. We will get those trimmed off. And yes, I'm well aware that 28 gauge is probably a little large for this item, but it's the smallest stiff wire I have. But I think it's going to look good. I just want to make sure it doesn't stick out too far from the side of the reel. And once we're happy with our length, we'll use a little bit of CA glue and install the crank onto the reel. Now, I'm not worried about the long piece. We're going to trim that down after our cement or the super glue, the CA glue, has set up. We just want to make sure that we've got it in position. And it doesn't matter where you clock this around the side of the reel. And as a matter of fact, it doesn't really matter whether it's on the left or right because these reels can be flipped over. So just put the crank in and get it lined up before the CA glue sets up. And then we can just trim off the excess, making sure to leave us just a little bit of room that a 1/35th scale soldier could get his hand onto it. Now these cranks are really small, so it's not that big of a deal. And we need to add a little handle to it. So I'm just going to use a little bit of CA glue for that. And we'll just use some leftover stretched sprue from when we made the handles on our engine cover. Now we're not worried about the length at the moment. We just need a small piece to put on the end of our crank there. And get it lined up, and then we'll set it aside, let it dry, and then we can come back in and trim our handles down to a respectable length here. This little handle is supposed to be about palm size, so I'm going to do my best to at least get both ends of it kind of equidistant there so that it's going to look right. And there we have it. That ought to look really good once we get everything painted up. And once everything's painted, we can add the actual communication wire that actually goes around the spool. All right, so we got not all, but some of the parts on, at least the parts in step 3 are all done, with the exception of our fire extinguisher, which I drilled a hole in the bottom of to help me paint it. I will paint that separately along with our fuel cans, which we just got finished taking care of, adding the straps, modifying the handles and all that stuff. Now you can, the kit includes these two carriers here that don't have the fuel cans in them. And I've got some Tamiya cans, but they don't really fit. You might be able to thin that out and trim the fuel can and get it to fit if you want to go that route. But it would be just as easy to make the handles. So it's kind of where I was at there. But if you wanted to display the model without any fuel cans or with one fuel can not installed on the vehicle, then you can use these empty carriers to take care of that. And then of course we got our little handle on our reel. So that's a little added detail. So that'll do it for this video. Special thanks to all my subscribers. It's because of you guys that I keep making these videos. And I hope that you enjoyed this one. And if you're new to the channel and not a subscriber, I hope today I earned your subscription. So look for the next posting on Friday, and we will continue our build on our M110 self-propelled howitzer. So until I see you guys on Friday or Wednesday if you're watching the wooden boat builds, you guys stay safe.